Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Trendler, and you are listening and now watching to episode 40 of the podcast series, Shut Up and Laugh. My name is Brian Trendler. I think I've already mentioned that, but that's okay. There's humor and iteration. And I get to sit here every couple of weeks and interview some really amazing people that have either touched me or they have incredible stories that just need to be seen and heard. And today is no different. But first, before we launch into that, I'm going to say a quick shout out and thanks to some of my sponsors. The first one being LT's Pet Sitting. Linda will come to your home. She will take care of your animals as if they are her own. And she will allow you the flexibility to, as the pandemic loosens up, get out, go away, go on vacation, go on a trip, whatever. She'll send you pictures to make sure that your animals are just fine without you, probably having a better time. And you can just relax and know that everything is going to be okay. Another sponsor is Dreamosity, my business partner actually in another company, but Marcel Allen, she runs a social media training company. She will teach you how to optimize your dollars, your advertising, your focus, and take care of you from the standpoint of getting you as much exposure online as possible from the social media aspects. And last but not least, Gentle Frog Custom QuickBooks Training. And Rachel Barnett is one of the Pacific Northwest highly rated and documented QuickBooks trainers and teachers, and she will take care of your business and point out kindly all the things that you can do better to run a sleek and successful business. If you are interested in ever thinking about becoming a sponsor, please feel free to visit my website, anchor.fm/shut up and laugh. And you can just click on the sponsor link and look at the options. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce a very special guest. I'm excited to meet her today. Really kind of face to face, only the second or third time since I've known her. Please give a warm welcome, everybody, to Mercy Haub. Mercy, hi.
Hi.
It's so good to see you. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited.
So I teased Mercy just a bit at first because she has the lighting currently that I have in my podcast studio normally in my mornings. And even though we're in the same time zone, I asked her to find a nice secluded space. And I think her window blinds are casting the same orange light. So she's not in some weird, creepy government facility room thousands of feet under the ground. She is a bubbly, beautiful teenager, and we get to chat today. So again, thank you for coming online here with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
So Mercy is, okay, we dive in deep here at Shut Up and Laugh, Mercy. We do a very, very almost crazy probe into all that makes you who you are from the background perspective. And let's be honest, you're a young teenager. There isn't a lot to find. I can just say to everybody that you are 16 years old. You're sweet 16, right? And you live in the Shoreline area. You go to high school in that area, and that's all I found from your deep, dark, hidden secrets. Most often, I'm just sharing things to throw people off. Is there anything else you'd care to share about that past of yours or your current present?
Yeah, I've lived in Shoreline for a little over 12 years. I
Okay.
moved here from LA, and I'm the oldest of 4 kids, so it's a party in the pandemic life.
Yeah,
Glad
exactly.
to never be bored in that way. But yeah, I'm loving the sunny weather, and I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of other things
I
that I
like
think.
walks in the park and puppy dogs. Okay, good, good. Now, you were born in California, right?
Yep. Yes.
Whereabouts?
LA.
LA?
So
Okay.
we lived really, really close to USC.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. And you've been up here for, like you said, 12 years now and just loving it. Okay. So do you want to just have some fun here and dive into these questions that you know nothing about? You don't know what I'm going to say. For anyone who's new listening or watching this broadcast, I just get to play with people and it's so much fun because Mercy is probably the bravest teenager out here in the Pacific Northwest right now. Not only because of her story, but also because she's on the show and has no idea what's happening. So fun fact, I found out, Mercy, that you love acting. You love theater. You love music too. You were in the Newsies. And
Yeah.
not only were you in the Newsies play, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, that's about the real life newsboy strike in 1899, because apparently women weren't capable of rolling up newspapers and throwing them onto people's doorsteps back then. You played multiple roles, if I learned my fact correctly. So tell me about that. What, I mean, were you Jack Kelly, the famous newsy leader of the Resistance, or what type of role did you play in that play?
Yeah. So that was my freshman year,
Okay.
and it was my first show I'd done with my high school's theater department. And actually at this
Theater. You have to say it theater
point,
and have your pinky out, right? Theater.
yeah,
Okay.
with the like pinky. um, yeah, so it was my first kind of show I had done with the theater department at my school, and
Coachable. Very good.
actually, sadly, it's the only musical I've performed with my school, because we were working on Legally Blonde my sophomore year, and then
Nice.
pandemic hit, and then it's junior year now, so
Yep.
it's too late for that. But I'm holding out for senior year musical. That'll be
There you
great.
go.
But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. It was a really incredible show because a lot of times conflict from within like a show that's happening is kind of this sort of like a hierarchy of the roles.
Yeah.
Like if you're the lead, then you've kind of got the lay of the land, you're like the boss man of the area. And then people who got really, really small parts are often frustrated because they feel like they could have shown and showcased their talents, and potentially have more fun as a hired, you know,
Yeah.
not committed, but like a larger part. And
Yeah.
so as a freshman, I was a little nervous about that, but it turned out in that show so many people had really similar levels of, stage time, like musical numbers. There weren't a ton of lines for people other than like the few main leads, but it really didn't matter because we all danced a ton, we all sang a ton.
That's
We really
great.
just became kind of a bond because there wasn't as much of this hierarchy. And the people who were kind of on the top of the food chain were really, really great and really nice. And I met some of my greatest friends in that
Mhm.
show, and we just all drew closer together. And I mean, it was really fun. I learned how to tap dance. That was really
Oh, wow.
great.
That's
It's kind of
fantastic.
ironic because I had to kind of, tuck back my hair. So it would have been, better if I was performing it now. I would have
Sure.
just looked
Sure.
like a
Yep.
boy.
Okay.
I
Well,
Yeah, so I was a newsie, just kind of a chorus member. I got to dance in a ton of the shows, and or not ton of the shows, and ton of the numbers. And I was a Bowery Beauty is what it's called. It was kind of like a burlesque dancer
yeah, I
at a
was going to say
ball.
that those are the burlesque dancers. Wow.
Yeah, so that was also really fun because it was this band of like I think there were 6 of us, and we had, it was only us in those few scenes, and we had like this one dance we did, and we totally had fun with the like
Yeah,
burlesque
throwing
dance
your dress
identity.
around
I
and
don't know.
everything, right?
Yeah, we had like feather boas. That all the feathers kept falling out, so everyone kept tripping on the feathers on the
No
stage.
one makes a good boa nowadays, I tell you. It's
Really, it's
horrible.
quality's gone so downhill. No. Yeah, so I was a Bowery Beauty, a newsie, and then a nun, which, that's kind of a light and dark, you got to
That's
burlesque
actually the normal
nun.
progression. You go from a newsie to a burlesque dancer and go, oh, I'm going to become a nun. So yeah,
Exactly. A
circle
few
of
of
life.
us actually had like that as our backstory kind of thing. Like, we're a nun, but the church is a little low on funds, so we have to do some
Yeah.
night jobs.
A little
Um,
known fact, nuns knit the boa, feathery
there we
things.
go.
So really, like I said, it's a circle of life in there.
It really is. It all comes together. Yeah,
That's
so
nice.
I definitely had a ton of fun being those different characters. It was really stressful because we had so many quick changes,
Yeah.
and going from a nun with like almost no makeup, but like feminine makeup in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
And then going to really bright statement makeup for the burlesque dancer, and then trying to wipe it all off and become like a dirty boy sort of makeup look
Yeah.
was a little stressful. But I mean, it was so fun, and stress kind of, it's a catalyst for enjoyment if you really kind of
Yeah.
get your handle on the situation. So that was super fun. I've always been a soprano in singing, so oftentimes I don't have harmonies. And so in this show, I had to sing the harmony line for a lot of different songs. And that was a really growing moment for me. And it was really fun. And it was always so satisfying to be like, I don't know what I'm singing. And then you hit the line and you like do it and it sounds so cool with the melody. And you're like, yes,
You
score.
just want to drop the mic and just walk off stage. Just like, I'm out, I'm done, I've done it. Now,
You
I
know?
don't know if you realize this, but the Shoreline equivalent of Rotten Tomatoes gave you a 97% for your performance. And no, I'm totally
Wow.
kidding. It just sounded funny. But you were described as a natural, so good on stage, literally meant to be there by these evil inside sources that I have that have explained and described the entire thing. Why do you love the experience of being on stage so much? What does it do for you? Although I think I pretty much already got my answer given how animated you've been. You're like a Fraggle Rock character going back and forth. But what makes you love it so much?
I mean, there's so many aspects of it. I mean, first of all, it's such a, like a you become such a bonded family. Sounds really cliche, but it really does
Who
become
doesn't?
this group that you're so close with. And I mean, if any theater kid is listening, you know what I'm talking about, where there's those weeks of just absolute heck that you're just the director's like, guys, we're not ready for the show. It's in 2 weeks. This is tech week for the next, you're not sleeping, you're stressed, all of these
Mhm.
things. And then when you come out of that and you present this show and people want to enjoy what you're doing when they're watching it, and then the people on stage themselves are just able to enjoy themselves
Yeah,
and experiment with different things. Like I know some people who are excellent actors and rarely had sung before it and now have found that they really love the music aspect of a musical.
yeah,
And dancing is not something I do on a regular basis, but theater dancing is so fun. Like the energy is just unmatched,
yeah.
and it's all these people working their passions to create this thing for everyone involved to enjoy. I really like that. And then it's also fun to kind of like dive into this character and be like, well, I'm putting Mercy on pause for today and going in as this person and just kind of it's really like if you like to act
Mhm.
or something, it's very similar to kind of being an author in a way, because you create this universe and try to kind of engross yourself into it and enjoy that. And so that's always super fun to like create like a backstory and
Yeah,
figure out your
yeah.
motives. It's like it's a challenge that ultimately is really rewarding.
I love the part of your answer. I love the whole thing, but part of your answer that says put mercy on hold and become someone new. And you're right. And I am a theater person. I am an ex-actor. And 2 years ago, I was actually back on stage at every theater as the captain of the tribute time machine. And they said, take Brad Pitt's I just forgot the name of the show. Well, and anyway, take like 4 or 5 different British accents, Scottish accents, and then be drunk, and that's the sound that the captain has to be. And I was like, oh my lord, what have I got myself into? But I did it right, and we're all dressed up like steampunk characters, and to be able to put Brian on the shelf, benefits I think more than just myself, but it's such an amazing release to just become someone else for 90 minutes, and just let it go. And in your case, get your burlesque on and everything else, become a nun and become a dirty boy. And yeah, it's just wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
really is so
that's just
fun.
amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Mercy, tell us about yourself. What sort of things make Mercy who Mercy is right now? What do you like to do as a normal teenager? What's a typical day in the life of you right now?
Yeah, so I really enjoy school and learning, and I would
Whoa,
say
whoa,
I
whoa, whoa. You enjoy school. What is wrong with you?
well, I enjoy parts of school. I Let me put a little asterisk on that. If I have a good teacher and I enjoy or I think the content I'm learning about is
Yeah,
one either presented in like a kind of a cooler, creative way, or two, I know how it's gonna kind of help me later in life,
yeah,
then I want to pay attention. to it, and I do really enjoy learning. I mean, that moment when you're like struggling with a concept and then you have this sort of aha realization
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my gosh, I understand how to do that. What? That's crazy. That's, that's always very rewarding.
Yeah.
uh
I don't know
Especially.
any other teenager that thinks that. So you are rare. You're like a unicorn of teen. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I I definitely think that enjoying learning has helped with school because, it's kind of something everyone does, but it's pretty hard, I think, if you just spend the whole time not wanting to be there. So
Yeah.
another part of me is like, why would I complain about this thing I'm gonna have to do? Why not just enjoy it? That'll help out in a lot of ways. So that's definitely something. So I go to school in the morning.
Mhm.
Um, I have band class and I actually am the jazz band, so I have to wake up an hour early or an hour and a half earlier than everyone else
Yeah.
to go there. So, I always wake up and hate that I'm in jazz band because I don't want to wake up. And then the second I start attending the class, I'm like, oh, it was worth it. I love this class. So I'm definitely a music person through and through. I'm in the wind ensemble playing clarinet and in the jazz band playing tenor saxophone.
Okay.
And
Wow.
they're such completely different environments, even though they're the same,
Sure.
like band, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's different things about them that I love, but I pretty much can label myself very confidently as a music person.
That's
um
wonderful.
and I'm a drum major for my band, so that's a learning curve right now. We're doing like pep and marching band tunes, so
Mhm.
trying to learn how to conduct really confidently.
Wow.
um and I'm a theater person, and
Please, huh?
I
Yes.
am also a soccer player. I really enjoy soccer a lot, and I'm actually running right now, um, to try to kind of increase my physical abilities so that by the fall of this year, I guess,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
senior year, I can try out for the team and get on the varsity team. I was on the varsity team sophomore year, but then, this last year and a half has kind of thrown some things for the loop. So
Sure.
we're gonna see how that works. But yeah, as soon as I'm done with school, I really enjoy like cooking and making food.
Mhm.
Um and and simultaneously I get annoyed if people ask me to make food because I'm like, for them, 'cause I'm like, you can do it yourself. What do you mean? So that, trying to figure that out. But I do enjoy making food, and I'm gluten free, so sometimes it can be a challenge.
Yeah.
There's no in the
Sure.
house. But after that, I usually do a little more homework, and I really like to eat outside because it's so beautiful outside, and I just feel so in my element outside, and the
Mhm.
sun just like makes me smile so much. Like, no hate on winter or fall or anything, but when the sun comes out, it's
Yeah.
always nice.
So is spring technically your favorite time, or is it summer that falls under your highest like marks?
That's a hard
Toss
one.
up?
I would
Toss up?
say, there's things I love about both of them a lot, but just like being like decisive right now. I would probably say summer because
Okay.
um I can like I love swimming and like going to the lake. And oftentimes in spring, even if the sun is out and it's warm outside, the lake is usually a little
I was
cold.
gonna
So
say the
by the end of
water is basically nuclear freeze level stuff. Yeah.
summer. Yes.
That's bad. Okay. All right. Very good. So quick side step of sorts. You're in a very interesting situation at home. Now you mentioned that you've got four siblings.
Yeah. Well,
So
I'm one of four. Yeah.
okay, so you're one of four. So your parents aren't working on like a basketball team or anything, but both of your parents are pastors.
Mhm.
Now, without getting them into trouble or getting you in trouble with them, hint hint, is there anything funny that you run across on a regular basis? Because it kind of feels like a sitcom wanting to be made. You got both parents as pastors, different styles, different techniques, right? But at the end, they're happily married, all that stuff. Has it been easy living with them, if we're being honest, or how's it working out for you?
Yeah, I would say I really enjoy it, I
Yeah.
think. But there's definitely things where I'm just like going through life and I think that so many people know what, blank situation is like, or this is super normal, and then I discover, hey, it's not. So the pandemic has stopped this from happening, but you know, most people go to church or a religious service for a set amount of time. You get there here, you're probably done however many hours, minutes, whatever
Sure,
afterwards.
sure.
For me, I usually get there like 3 hours before the service starts, and I'm there probably, or like 2 or 3 hours before the service
Yeah.
starts. And then I'm there like 3 or 4 hours after the service ends. So it's like kind of church for me is like a day.
Yeah. That's good.
And
Full-time job.
it really is. And the term is like PK, pastor's kid. And so my mom's Instagram handle is raising PKs, but I thought it was raisin GPK, and I was like, what the heck is a raisin GPK? Hello, mom, what
Did
is
you
this?
just call me
But,
ugly?
anyway,
Raisin PK?
yeah, so it's definitely, I think I learned a lot of like independence in
I
a way
love that.
because my mom would always be like, I would be the one who's like, okay, Aaron, Elijah, Hope, don't talk during the service, and like trying to find them all so we could leave.
Yeah, yeah.
We would have the lay of the land at the church, know it like the back of your hand. And then there's also a little sense of responsibility, and kind of you have to be a little more posed, and
Yeah.
you know you're the PK, you're the example for the kids, and
You
also
were even doing it. You even straightened up again. You're like, gotta fit that mold.
straighten your
There you go.
tie.
A little
You've
wagger.
got your posture. Yeah, exactly. But then also I would be a lot more involved, so I
Yeah.
was at the church like most of the days of the week. um and so actually currently my mom isn't employed, and my dad works at a college because he quit his job right before the pandemic started. And so it's been really weird because on top of having a pandemic and everyone working from home, um both of them are not doing their pastor jobs at the moment. So it's
Yeah.
pretty weird
Yeah.
to because that has never happened for me. Like I'm just unused to it. So yeah, it's definitely been interesting. I will say
You're
that.
actually a PICO, PKOH. It's pastor's kid on hiatus.
There we go. There we go. A
And it also
pico.
sounds like a Pokemon or something like that. Someone should go out there and catch you with a cell phone or something. So very good. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. I think the only thing that you left out technically is it's a 10-hour day at church, and then you come home and it's just a home church version because they're still there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the next part here. I don't know if you realize this, but literally tomorrow is kind of an anniversary that you and I share. And it's
Oh,
literally a year ago tomorrow, I was emceeing an event.
yes.
Yes. So again, for anyone that's just now listening or watching, we only know each other through one or two events very briefly, and now this, which again, you're officially my bestie, only pocket sized because I'm old and crunchy and tall. But point is that we've literally only known each other through the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And last year, I was emceeing the event. I was doing my thing, and you were the student of the hour, having raised a exorbitant amount of funds for the event, and you were being honored as well as many other kids that were going through incredibly long periods of fundraising to kind of have a contest, a good-natured, no one shanking each other in the parking lot or anything, but a very good-natured, cause to raise money of what leukemia and the Leukemia Lymphoma Society do. Then out of the blue, you're diagnosed. And I want to give you an opportunity to share some of that story, because a couple of weeks ago, I'm back at the same virtual event, emceeing, doing again my small part to raise and hopefully drive more donations virtually, turn people upside down and shake them and see what comes out, right? But make them laugh at the same time, feel good about the great things that they're doing. But this time your face was up on the slides. Your story was there for everyone to see and listen to. Your battle and the sheer, are you kidding me, of it all is what all of us were feeling. So can you please share what happened, what's going on, and what has this been like for you?
Yeah. So actually, May 3rd was my last day of school, before the pandemic closed down, which was about a week before everyone else had their last day, because I was really sick and we actually thought it was COVID. And so I went to the hospital because it got pretty bad at a point, and I didn't have COVID. It was just something, who knows. And so after that, I didn't really recover very well. I obviously got a lot better, but remained feeling kind of under the weather. And between then and the last day of school, I went to the hospital 3 times because I continued to have sort of these moments or long periods of time where I was feeling really gross. And so I'm pretty sure like a week and a half before the grand finale for the LLS thing that you were just talking about, I was in the hospital. Um, and so, rallied for that time. I was super excited, trying to raise as much money as I could, and ended up raising over more than my goal. And I said that if my goal was reached, I would shave my head and donate the hair to Wigs for Kids. I had like 2 feet of hair I was able to donate. And so, you know, I kind of continued to feel this way throughout the summer. And the day before school started, at the beginning of September, I shaved my head and put the hair in a bag and mailed it off to Wigs for Kids. And 2 weeks from that date, I had a CT scan because we were just jumping around from everywhere, every specialist at Children's, trying to figure
Mm-hmm.
out why I was sick. It kind of got to a point where I was like, am I making this up? Am
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Is
what
it
I
psychosomatic, right? I mean, what's
yeah,
happening?
am I just exacerbating how I'm feeling and exaggerating it in my head and projecting this because I don't want to do school, or I'm lazy, or I want attention? Like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really hard to that point, and a lot of my symptoms were involved with like my breathing and my chest pain and everything. And so we had a pulmonologist who recommended a CT scan, and we went and got it. And my pediatrician at 9:30 at night, we have her on like a text basis at that point because
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of like, we needed to kind of have some constant communication at that time. So we got that text, and she was like, hey, can you hop on a Zoom call? And this is like the day of the CT scan. um
Yeah.
and so we were kind of like, what is going on? 9:30 at night, a Zoom call with the pediatrician. We just had a test. This maybe isn't the most ideal sort of a situation.
Yeah.
And so we hopped on that Zoom call, and she talked us through and said, hey, we found some swollen lymph nodes on your CT scan, and this could mean a lot of things. It could mean a fungal infection. It could be you're just fighting a virus, but your symptoms haven't changed anything in the last few months, and viruses don't really last for that long in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be lymphoma. And she was like, don't we'll send off some labs.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna
Don't go
pursue
there
this,
yet.
but I just wanted to let you guys know. And so as soon as we closed the computer, I looked at my mom, and she looked at me and was like, don't freak out. Because we had both just like heard lymphoma, and then everything else was kind of like an
Sure.
echoey, an echo chamber sort of situation. Um, and then I remember the next day, our pediatrician sent a text to my mom and was like, hey, I did that, test, that lab test that's usually um, heightened in lymphoma cases, and it came back negative. So that's really good news. And my mom goes, woo, no lymphoma, at the top of her lungs. And my brothers were like, what? That was on the table? And I was like,
Mm.
only since last night, don't worry. So it was kind of like a free, like, oh, thank goodness, sort of a situation. But because sometimes, in our heads, it was just a small percentage of lymphoma patients who didn't show that, and it was very unlikely that I had lymphoma. But we still had to meet with an infectious disease specialist, and he
Mm-hmm.
looked at my situation, heard my story, and was like, I really don't think this is what this is. And then the oncologist looked me dead in the face and said, you don't have cancer. It was nice meeting you, but I will never see you again.
Mm.
And then after kind of talking through a little bit, she was like, but I do want to have a biopsy just in case. So I don't know if you can see, there's like a little scar right there. That's
Yeah.
my biopsy site. And turned out I had lymphoma. And so that was kind of a roller coaster experience.
Mm.
So I did fertility treatment, which is kind of a sort of not talked about aspect of cancer treatment, but I was really fortunate to be able to have done that because
Mhm.
it meant that my cancer wasn't at a point of risk or aggressiveness where where waiting, 3 weeks was a literal life or death situation. So I'm really grateful about that. And I definitely want to have kids in the future, so also thankful for that aspect.
Yeah.
But then I hopped into chemotherapy and did that for the next 5 months or something, and then was pronounced to be in remission. But I was initially on the leadership team,
Yeah.
the task force for the LLS in this sort of chapter, and trying to help other people experience how great the Students of the Year campaign was.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still to this day like would profusely recommend doing that if you're a high school student for with any sort of passion in anything. Like, you don't have to be like cancer for the whole preceding your life. Like, it's a great experience for anyone with any skill. But little plug there. But I definitely was super excited to do that. But then with being diagnosed and everything, I couldn't commit to that. And Danica, who is a staff member at the LLS, who I got
Hmm.
to know really well through my involvement with them, she said, "Hey, why don't you be an honored hero?" Which is they select a few kids each year to sort of highlight their stories and their experiences and serve as almost like a tie to the cause, sort of
Yeah.
like a mission moment, and also a point of inspiration for the people who are working towards raising that money. And so I was really honored. I was honored to be an honored hero, but
Yep. Yep.
I was really grateful for that opportunity. And I mean, it was such an ironic situation. I really couldn't believe, and I still can't really believe, um, that I was really glad that I was able to kind of use my sucky situation to hopefully inspire some action for some people. And my friend who was on my team, actually, when I did it, I asked her if she would want to be her own kind of candidate, and she said no. I am really busy, and a lot
Hmm.
of things are happening. And then when I was diagnosed, and I FaceTimed her and told her, she the next day she was like, "I'm doing it. I'm being a candidate for the Students of the Year." And
Yeah.
she ended up raising over $50,000
Yeah.
this year
Fun.
and was the Student of the Year. She raised the most. She actually got um an initiative, the Children's Initiative, kind of the thing that LLS is doing, named after her, and said in honor of me, which was crazy. And like, I didn't know it was happening, and that's like amazing. But I was so proud of her and so
Yeah.
happy that, without, like, if it weren't for my diagnosis, I don't know if she would have been a candidate, and that would have been $50,000 less than someone else, or than the other total. So there's some bright sides, I guess.
Yeah. It's a truly remarkable story, and it speaks toward your strength and your resiliency, and more than likely your belief and your family and your togetherness. And how ironic also that during the chemotherapy you've got to be quarantined, and it's in the middle of a quarantine. So it's like some of those things do sort of work to your advantage, don't they? It helps make the unthinkable doable, right?
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
you have one of the most gorgeous smiles I've ever seen, and you're just so radiant, and you're quick to laugh, and I admire that so much about you. It is an inspiration. I mean, like, I feel like this little guy, that is looking up at you as someone I want to be when I grow up. And like I said, I'm old and crusty. So I mean,
Oh, wow.
understand, if you've never been told, that you are already affecting people on an incredible level. And would you care to share a recent opportunity that you had on a certain show? And would you, tell us how that happened and what the result was, and what happened when you got that call?
Yeah, for sure. So, I on my very last day of chemo, I was really sad and I didn't want to go to chemotherapy, but I ended up being surprised by having a sort of the 7 blocks between my house and the freeway. or at least the 7 blocks between my high school and the freeway, I live really close to my high school, was this group of like 500 people just who lined up at like 7 a.m. on a Saturday during a pandemic. Like, what? I still can't really comprehend it, but they were all there and like screaming and shouting and cheering me on, and they were there to cheer me on. They weren't just there for something else and I happened to drive by. Like, they were there for me, and that was, I mean, like I get speechless still talking about it, but I mean, that was such an amazing experience and totally transformed my experience of that day. Like, after that I was so ready to like fight cancer. We're gonna beat this thing. This is the last chemo. Let's go. Instead of like, okay, let's go to chemo, I guess. Kind of, it was just a complete like 180 sort of situation. And so that there was a video of that, and I just on a whim sent it to sort of like a good news correspondent, I guess, that I followed on Instagram. I really didn't think he would see it, let alone post it, but he ended up posting it on Instagram and Twitter, and it kind of got um I think it was over 500,000 people saw it in the first week or so. And so that was crazy. And I was totally out of it that week because I was like drugged up on chemo, feeling horrible, all sorts of things. But I got a DM on my kind of cancer journey Instagram, and it was, hi, I work for the Ellen Show, and I saw your story on this good news thing, and I was wondering if we could talk to you to see if you would, your story would be something we would want to highlight on our show. And I was like, what? And then I was like, no, this has got to be a scam. And I showed it to mom as like a haha, look what I almost fell for. And she was like, oh my gosh, you should totally write her back. And I was like, whoa, is this the real thing? And so, a few interviews later, they were like, hey, we're gonna have you on the show, congratulations. And so I believe, oh my gosh, I feel bad that I don't know the exact date, but I think it was April 9th or something that I was able to Zoom in to the Ellen DeGeneres show, and I had an interview with her, and I was screaming internally the entire time. I did not know that was even happening. Like, it was so bizarre and crazy and such an incredible experience.
I watched it.
Yeah, it was really amazing. And then we had a really great interview. I was so worried I was just going to blabber on and on and on. If you're listening to this point of the podcast, I kind of rant or ramble a little bit. So I was really worried about that, but I felt like I did a pretty good job at reining it in a little bit. And so I was super relieved about that. And she was so nice. And, it was like to have Ellen DeGeneres say you're inspiring, like that is so bizarre. Still can't believe it. But then she surprised me with a trip down to LA which is my hometown, and so I've missed it so much during the pandemic, and I'm so excited to go down there. But I get to go back to the show in person. And so I'm so excited about that. She sent me some really cool swag too, like a hat that she signed. So I walked into the hospital like I had an appointment that week, and I walked in with it on my head, and it was kind of a nice full circle moment. But she also gave me $10,000, which was so crazy, and I don't even know how much that is. Like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do with it. It'll probably be like college or something, but it's so crazy to think about, and like, yeah, I don't even know how that happened, but I'm really glad it did.
It's called a plan, and you're part of it. And it's remarkable. And you shone so bright on that show. You completely outshone that Ellen gal. Whatever, famous TV show and everything. Okay. No, that was awesome, and thank you for sharing about that, because like I said, I got to see it and it was awesome. You did not blather and blabber all over the place. You were very, very, I think you might as well have been chained down because you were vibrating. You were so excited. It was just,
yes, that's true.
it was fantastic. So tell me where all of this energy comes from, all this makeup that is you, all you've been through over the last year and a half, what you're going to still be faced with. what are some of the things that keeps you laughing, smiling, and literally again glowing like for people around you? Because you just radiate. So tell me, and that's not because of the radiation you've been through. I did not mean to make a pun there, but it was kind of punny. Where does all this energy come from?
I mean, I think part of it is just kind of how I've been raised and who I kind of am, just, even at the beginning. But I think a lot of it is also a choice for me, because I think we all have sort of a source of energy and we can all be energetic about something. Um, but where you choose to direct that energy, it really matters a lot. And I think in my experience, I've seen how being positive and kind of just like smiling can be so contagious. And making someone smile is like one of the best feelings in the entire world. And it really, it makes, me feel really good, but it also can totally change the experience of another person's day, maybe, or, whole week, month, year, life, maybe. Who knows? You never know what's going on.
Mhm.
And so just the simple effort of like smiling and trying to be kind of positive and um sort of being a light in such a dark world,
Mhm.
I think it is something that I've found to be really, it pays off a lot, but it also just kind of betters my own experience. And I think like what I mentioned about going at school with kind of like, well, I'm gonna be here anyway, like might as well make it fun. It's
Yeah.
kind of like I guess my motto for life, I suppose. And I found that, for me at least, I feel, most at home, and most confident in myself when I'm smiling and, trying to kind of put some optimism in there. And something I've struggled with is differentiating between, toxic positivity and constructive optimism. And so, still
Yeah.
working on that, but I definitely feel like it's one of my more, valued by my own self and also the people around me,
Mhm.
um sort of values or aspects of who I am. And like even if I'm not even really trying to do it, I will, you know, stand up and lose my voice because I'm screaming so much at my soccer game or the pet band game. Or I, I just like when I'm excited, I just like start jumping and like hyping people up, and
Mhm.
it's contagious. And so that's another thing maybe why I like theater so much, is that people reciprocate your energy. And if it's all of us who are enjoying this thing we're doing, then that's a lot of good energy and enjoyment, and so it'll just keep kind of bouncing back. um and I think when other people are smiling, they're more confident, and when other people are confident, everyone kind of is enjoying the moment as well as kind of the long term better. So that's my goal, is to try to help some people find that confidence and find that sort of thing that makes them smile and maybe play a role in it, hopefully.
Mercy, when you listen to this on either the podcast or the Zoomcast, I want you to really focus in on the answer you just gave. That was an incredible, beautiful, old soul answer. Like countless years of experience just came out of you, and that's not possible. You're 16 years old. That was amazing. It's everything Laugh Tech stands for. It's what we train people on every day, that they choose literally that face they're going to wear each day, because that conscientious choice affects people around you, whether it's the Zoom call or the Safeway aisle, or once we can all finally land on the ground again and successfully and completely put this in our rear view mirror, not just what you're battling, but this darn pandemic. We need each other. We need to smile. We need to touch. We need to connect. We need to hug. I'm a hugger, Dad Burnett. I miss it, and it's just, it's crazy. And everything you just answered is perfect. It's what everybody needs to say and think. So if I had a hat, I would take it off right now and say, hats off to you. Absolutely brilliant. Um, I have one more question for you, and then we're going to go into what's called the James Lipton nod. And if you don't know who James Lipton is, I'll explain briefly. But I want to know who inspires you.
Wow. I think so. The first things that come to mind are my parents, my siblings, and my close friends. I find that, and they're not going to believe me. If they ever listen to this, they're not going to believe me that I'm like saying this, but I'm literally in awe of them every single day.
Oh,
Like, they're all so incredible. And I think that's another thing, kind of tying back to what I just said, is like, I, something I really value about life is that I think I can see the triumphs of people if I get to know them a little more. Like,
mm-hmm.
if I know kind of sort of what they've thrived in some way. Like, if you don't think you're thriving, too bad, you're wrong. You've had some great successes and some great comebacks in some way, and so you're also not thriving with an easy path behind you. Like, you've had some obstacles. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think when I know someone enough to see both sides of that and res- can respect and honor and be impressed by that success and pushing through that, anyone can inspire me. Like, I think just regular people who go about their life and, you know, every so often you get a really heroic thing caught on camera or something, and that's kind of what I see on the like Good News Movement,
Yeah.
that handle that I told you about. Like, so many of those actions go unnoticed in our day-to-day life, but I mean, the people, like, the more I get to know people, the more I'm just amazed by everything they've done and everything they've come through, and how they impact other people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize like how great they, how much they contribute to like the goodness and like greatness of my day and also the world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think people who are trying to who are really trying to advocate for problems that we have in our world, like um, climate justice, people who are trying to advocate for climate justice or racial justice, or reform in the way that we even just frame the world, not just something like uh, you know class systems, or some like kind of tangible problem, but just sort of like how we look at our own mistakes, and learning from them instead of being ashamed of them, or trying to hide and dismiss them.
Mm-hmm.
I think people who are, yeah, trying to educate people and just doing their best to improve a problem that they've identified, that that's really inspiring to me.
Hmm.
And I mean, I didn't love my siblings and I love my parents so much that like I can really, and I've also kind of been with them for a while and I know a lot about them, so I can really acknowledge like how incredible of a person they are. And I, even my little sister who's half my age, like I want to be like her when I grow up, sort of a thing.
That's awesome. Well, Mercy, more people need to listen to you and hear your message. And again, that's the sole reason of this podcast and now Zoomcast. So we're going to play with the last part of this, which is called the James Lipton nod. Are you familiar with who James Lipton is?
No, I feel
It's
like
okay. It's perfectly fine. Again, you're it's way out of your normal age group. Someday look up on YouTube Inside the Actor's Studio. He is a famous professor, a theater major or teacher, whatever, and he interviewed hundreds of famous actors and philosophers and just everything you can imagine on stage. And he sat in a little old rickety, like kid's school desk, looked grossly uncomfortable for all of these interviews, while the other person got to sit in a nice, comfy, like lounge chair. And he is an amazing interviewer. But what he did is he always gave each one of these actors or famous people the same three questions at the end. I am not a thief. I did not take the same questions. I've taken my own three questions that now everyone gets, just because they're fun. And do your best, as he made his guests, to answer in one word.
Oh
It's
no.
okay if you don't. Most people fail this, but this isn't a real test. You're not being graded. So for the James Lipton nod, your first question is simply, what is one of your biggest pet peeves?
Hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy? Wow. Okay. All these old soul answers. God. Okay. What is a favorite place you've traveled to or would like to?
Uh, um, Northern California is one of my favorite places I've traveled. So Northern California
Okay.
and Mexico
Okay.
are
Mexico.
the place I want to travel.
Okay. Fantastic. And if you could be known for one thing only, what would that be?
This is hard. um, I'm going between two different things. I'm gonna say cancer curing.
Okay.
That's two words, but let's just add
Okay.
a hyphen there so it kind of counts.
Hashtag cancer curing. All one word.
There we go.
There you
Perfect.
go. Okay.
Because that's another thing about the irony of this whole thing is like I've wanted to cure cancer and be an oncological researcher or practicing oncologist for a long time. I actually just got a really huge
I was gonna say, and you
red
just got an
so
internship.
yeah, so that's another step on that way. So, hopefully I think if obviously you can't like cure all cancer with one thing. It's just step by step until you can find
You
a
will.
path to remission for everyone. But,
You will.
you know, that would be the goal.
You absolutely will. Mercy, it is time for us to wrap this up. I wanted to thank you once again for taking the time, reconnecting with me, that goofy MC at an event who you barely know and who just, in my own way, Fraggle rocked around the screen for 25 minutes to help donate time to the cause. I did donate to your friend's thing, so I'd like to claim that I am the one that got her over the top, but I can't legitimately say that. But I'm going to end with a saying, for lack of better words, that I created for all of these interviews, and this is just a quick moment. This is for you, and this is everyone out there listening or now watching once again on Zoomcast, thanks to the GD pandemic. When you're out there in between these podcasts and surrounded by everyone you know and love, be a witness. Be real. And be present to those you know and love. I ask this of you, Mercy, and everyone else, because I'm challenging you all to try it, because sometimes we all just need to take a moment, step back, look around, and shut up and laugh. Now, normally I end on that note, but I will tell you, Mercy, that I don't know if you recall that I lost my mother.
Oh, I do remember that now that you've said that.
Super thrilled that this is on video. But you're so strong. And you're amazing, and I just want to thank you. And unfortunately, when I get emotional, I turn into Minnie Mouse. Voice goes up. But it's a really, really crappy disease. And she fought every day for 6 years. And I can only pray that you stay strong and stay in remission and just continue to do amazing things.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you once again. And everybody, we'll see you next time on episode 41.
Bye. Thank you.